which is where it really gets scary, because as you try to pass knowledge down, like it might have worked for you, and that was the best of your lifetime, but it might not be the best for the upcoming generation, your kids, maybe.
Yeah.
That's where it really gets.
I am a person that saves and invests, and that's just going to be my identity going forward. Like family, I am a person that talks to my family on a consistent basis, regardless of what's going on in life.
Okay.
Yo, B, let's go.
You may have seen the clip and maybe heard word of mouth, yet another podcast. Man, what could it be about? Is it truth or opinion? A couple of contradictions. We're here to challenge tradition and twist your vision. So we set on a mission to bring you rebel wisdom.
Welcome back to another episode of Rebel Wisdom. I'm Julian here with my boy B. Super excited as always. And today we're going to talk about goals, goal setting. And I'm just going to tell you, scratch your goals. Don't need them. Highly overrated. Might sound crazy, but we're gonna talk about why. I think we have something we can offer, bring to the table to expand that thought process when attaching goals. Right? You always hear it top of the year. Hit B up, yo B, like what's your New Year's resolutions? What goals you got for the year? And we all know how that goes. Usually down the drain. So let's kind of just jump into it and take a newly rebelled perspective against goals and the common narrative we see in society, right? Do I have goals? Yeah, sure. But do I have better way? I don't have. But are there better ways that I can probably approach some of these end states that I'm trying to get to? I actually think there is than just, traditionally, hey, I'm going to make a list. I want to get to X. There's all these boxes on my list to check these boxes to get to X. And once all these boxes are checked, I think with a high degree of certainty, I'm going to get my goal. Might be kind of played out. Before we get into it, do you have any opening thoughts on the topic?
I think goal setting is not the portion that gets you to success.
Right.
Because the intentions of setting the goal is to achieve something, right? Something that you didn't achieve before.
Exactly.
I could call that success or, betterment of yourself or something along those positive lines.
Yeah.
And if you were to set the goal and achieved it, it's not because you set the goal. It's because all the stuff that happened after you set the goal and, the hard work that you put in that ultimately achieved the goal that you made. And I do want to start out with James Clear. He wrote the book Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
And he has a quote in there that says, you do not rise. It's in the book. Maybe he didn't quote it. Someone else quoted it, but you get the point.
Uh-huh.
He said, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
Man,
and
I love that.
Dude, that is so powerful because when you're feeling down, the arbitrary goal that you set is not going to be, the crutch that's holding you up, that's going to get you to that next step of your goal.
Right.
It's the habits that you created, day in, day out, that's compounded over and over and over for a long period of time that gets you to these great,
right,
success, whatever that means for you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I want to explore today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And I'm thinking, so as we typically like to do, right, in true rebel wisdom fashion, I'm going to go ahead and define goal. I literally just went on Google and typed in define goal. And this is what it says. The object of a person's ambition or effort, an aim or desired result. So in this, going contrary to goals or goal setting, right, a goal is just a statement, an idea, an end state that you say, hey, I want to achieve, I want to get here, I want to have this goal. I think people conflate like a goal or goal setting with how to actually get that. Like a goal is just a thing that exists in some future timeline. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's kind of that desired end state, but it's not the work that's done to get there. It's not the planning. And people are like, oh, that's goal setting, but it's really not. The goal is just that end thing, like that system that you have in place, which is the like detailed process. That is what you really need to focus on vice the actual goal itself, which is why I say like scratch the goal. Like what are you going to do day in, day out? What is the repetition look like? What are the habits that you're going to put in place? That's what you really need to get to whatever this desired end state is. And that, you know, that kind of goes parallel with the saying, it's all about like the process, not the product, or any variant of that saying, which, you know, I agree with. Did I ever tell you? I think I did. I don't know in what context. Did I ever tell you about the story of my grandpa and bowling, like the bowling story?
Oh, shoot. I think you may have.
I use it. I haven't told it in a while, but I use it a lot just whenever I talk about it. It's more about the process and the product. And I'll share it now, is that I was in a bowling league in, I don't know, I think 3rd grade, like growing up. And my grandpa, bowling was like one of his like main hobbies in his life before he passed away. Like he worked in a bowling alley before he died. Like he got me, for one of my birthdays, he got me like a customized bowling ball from like his bowling shop. It was like blue with like gold swirls. It was thick. You know, so I was like pretty decent at bowling for like a young middle schooler. And I would always, like one day, it was like not in the league. It was like at his bowling alley. And, you know, I was just bowling. And he came up to me. He was like, hey, like when you bowl, like what do you look at? And I was like, I look at the pins. That's the object of the game. Like try to knock down the pins. He was like, you don't need to focus on the pins. And you know, I'm like, what? He's like, you don't like. He was like, see, that's where most people go wrong. They focus on the pins, or like even where to hit the pins at is a little better. But he was like, you need to focus on, you know, those little arrows that are on like midway down the lane. There's like a group of arrows that like go across the lane. He was like, you need to focus on where you want the ball to hit that mark. And that trajectory will give you, like, once you figure out what's the proper trajectory for the ball to hit those arrows that are like halfway down the lane, that will guide the ball in the right path to strike the pins, to maximize like how many pins you get down, or if there's only a couple up to like where you want to hit the pins. So all that in a nutshell, when I got older, I would always like reflect on that. I was like, he's pretty much saying like, don't focus on the goal, but like, what are you going to do to position or to posture yourself to be in the right position to actually meet the desired end state, which again is pretty much all the goal is. And I was just like, man, that's rich. I don't know why that always stuck with me, and I don't even think that was the lesson. Like he was really just trying to tell me how to bowl better. But you know, as I got older, that's how I interpreted that lesson.
Yeah, that definitely,
which I think loosely at least ties into this conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Shout out to Gramps for that. RIP. So yeah, like I said, I don't know if it's just human nature, but I think we're always taught, hey, what are your goals? Or, you know, write your goals out, which, I mean, it's good. I wouldn't say it harms you, but I think it just gets us fixated on a point where we can maybe otherwise, you know, direct our efforts, or maybe like put our focus on just writing down these goals, which again, I don't know, you know, growing up, which is what I was always told. I think there's some creativity in being free, or the true experience, or again, just a process, to be honest, which I've seen show up in my life in some capacities. What were you about to say?
Yeah, no, like focus, I think is the right word here. People put too much emphasis, too much focus on the goal itself.
Yes.
And because everyone has heard of that one person. I mean, there's more than one person, but they'll shout out their goal, right? They'll let you know loud and clear that the goal, whatever the goal they have.
Yep.
You know for a damn fact they are not about to achieve that goal. It is so grand, which is, I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Right.
But with the level of the person that you know them as, you know that they're not going to hit their goal. And so that's stop focusing on the goal. Goal is not, there's something wrong with, first of all, it's arbitrary. And what happens after you hit that goal, right? Like for example, I do set New Year goals.
Yeah.
I don't want to say resolution, but
goals, same thing. I mean,
I just put goals. And for example, one of them's like, you know, I want to save X $1,000 for my emergency fund that I will not touch.
Yeah.
And by you setting that goal means literally nothing.
Yeah.
Because once you set the goal, everything starts. Because you have to work hard.
Yes.
You have to be disciplined not to spend, you know, on buying stuff that you don't need.
Yeah.
And after many months of hard work, maybe you hit that goal. And then what? I mean, they're like, oh, that goal, but then you should be keep going, right? And when you achieve that goal, it was literally the hard work that carries you through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even if you didn't hit that, even if you didn't set that goal, like if you're like a disciplined person that has some sort of ambition in life, or like they know a direction that they're going, they could achieve it regardless of the goal.
Yeah.
I think people just put too much emphasis on it, and in few cases, I think it can be a bad thing. For example, this is gonna be a real estate thing because I went through it. I know a lot. I talked to a lot of real estate investors and wannabe investors. But if your goal is, okay, I want to buy 5 houses, 5 single family houses, and then you ignore everything else and you are so dedicated to that goal, let's say. And let's say an opportunity comes that you could have bought, let's just say like a 30 unit, a storage unit.
Mm-hmm.
Very niche.
Yeah.
Space, even within real estate. But self-storage, like they generate a lot of revenues and much more passive than managing tenants.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And if that opportunity comes your way, if you're so focused on a goal, you're going to be like, oh, no, thank you. Like, this is my goal. You're going to be missing a lot of opportunity. If you're too focused on it, you could be missing opportunities that come along the way because of your hard work. So that's a negative there. If you too loosely follow your goals, then your goal means nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's so many people that set the New Year resolution and by, the third week, it's already over.
Right.
It's like the classic gym story, like after New Year's, like January 2nd or the 3rd, that first Monday, the gym is packed.
Right.
And this literally February 1st is back to normal. So it wasn't the goal. The goal meant nothing to them. But then if you redefined yourself as the person, I forget which book talks about it, but the rebrand is like a big thing. It's like, even if you don't go to the gym, if you consider yourself like, like I'm a healthy guy that works out. That's my identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as you go, like you're going to just be going to the gym regardless of your goal. And you're going to achieve a lot of things if you're passionate about the things that you're doing.
Your plan, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The habits that you make.
Right.
Which I want to elaborate on that. What I hear you saying is essentially like a goal can almost kind of cap your potential or maybe like limit your potential. Whereas if you have a codified system, I can use it interchangeably with habits in place, I think that will be more beneficial and you don't need the goal. So to tie it back to the New Year's resolution piece, you gave one of yours, and you know this about me because we shared it, right? I had a goal, the plan to read. I mean, yeah, it was a goal to read. It started like 8 books a month, and you actually encouraged me. You were like, oh, you could probably do more than that. Absolutely. So I went
8 books a month?
No.
A year.
8 books a year.
Yeah.
And I went to 12, so like a book a month. So that was my like goal at the start of the year. And what I realized was I came out the gate hot because I started the year with a book I was halfway in between. So when I finished it, I mean, I counted that as a book I finished this year. But like almost like 7, I had already read more than 7 books. But it gave me a sense of ease because I was like, okay, I'm already on pace to reach 12 books. So if you look at it in context of goal, it's really like somebody could be like, oh, well, this is a micro goal within the goal. The goal is to read X amount every day. Like that's my plan to reach this arbitrary end state. And like part of my system, I have a morning routine that is a piece of my, larger system. And within that routine is to get up and read 30 minutes. If I do that every day, if I read 12 books in 9 months, do I stop reading books? Like, no, you just keep doing that. What's part of my system and my routine and just read every day. And then let that guide me, not this goal. Because I literally felt that goal. I was like, okay, like I'm ahead on this goal. Like, no, scratch the goal and just make it a part of your system. Mm-hmm. Which once it's a part of that long enough, hopefully it becomes habitual. And now it's just, you're a higher functioning human.
Right.
So like that's how I'm trying to think about it and like create that shift, because a goal could cap your potential.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I was recently thinking about there's a way that I format my goals at the beginning of the year, but that I'll give you an example with similar to your book example, right? In 2021, like from middle school, like I read a book for some social studies class, whatever.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good book.
Yeah.
I haven't read a book since then to like until I graduated college.
Yeah.
Literally not a single
Yeah.
book. And I picked up Rich Dad Poor Dad, which that I can talk for hours about that. But that led me into reading many, 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 many more books.
Mm-hmm.
In 2021, I set a goal that I want to read 52 books, which was one book a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually, I think I was, until like August, I was on track to complete that goal. But what I noticed at the end of the year, first of all, I didn't hit that goal. I think I was at like 45 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But towards the end, like I felt that rush. I'm like, hey, I don't think I'm going to achieve that goal. So I started like cranking through books.
Yeah.
And it kind of destroyed the purpose of reading that book because, I don't really read. I read something that's like nonfiction or something that's beneficial to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't really read for entertainment.
Yeah.
So with that, if I pick up a book and just read it on my own time because I want to read it, I may be able to capture like 60, maybe 50 to 60% of what the book is talking about.
Yeah.
On the first time, maybe.
Yeah.
But then I felt like, there are some books that I know I read it, but I can't even give you like 5 bullet points on what the book is about.
Right.
I try to crank read it so fast, and I'm kind of regretting it. I'm kind of regretting it because like there's a lot of books that I read, and I think about there's a lot of books that I would need to reread, and I just never get to the reread section. Be like, oh, but I could just read this new book, but I know there's some hidden gems in the stuff that I missed. So with that being said, I'm thinking about goal planning in a different way of like, not in a goal in a traditional sense that people are, hey, I want to do this by this date. I want to just probably like create like a bullet point of reminders of the direction I want to go. And you can say that's a goal, but I want to make it more like, hey, this year, just think about, rereading a couple books that you read in the past. Like that's like a loose, like just like a reminder. And I think that might be, more of a manageable thing. But I do have a question.
Dude, that's, what's up?
And I think I have a radical, not radical, but like rebellious take on it.
Okay.
As always. But do you think that you should make goals that that you could hit just so that you can say that you hit the goal? Or should you set a goal that that you can't hit?
Neither. Here's why.
Then what kind of goals do you set?
You asked, do I think I should set goals that I know I could hit, or do I think I should set goals that I know I can't hit? That's the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I should set goals that I know I can hit. I think I should just do it. Like if it's well within my capability, just make a conscious decision, just do it. Like it's not something when I think a goal, again, like a written down, a prioritized item to do, like just put a plan in place to do it. That's my answer to the first part. I'm not going to put conscious effort towards doing something I know I can do. There might require, like I said, a plan, but I'll leave that at that. Do I think I should make a goal I know I can't hit? I'm going to say no, because if you know you can't hit it, again, going back to let me just reread this definition of goal. The object of a person's ambition or effort and aim for a desired result. I feel like if there's a desired result that I know I can't get, then that it's like not desired. It's just some aloof existence of an idea. Now, where I'll go in the middle lane and say, I think you should set lofty, if we're talking about goals, the end state should be like lofty and maybe hard to attain, like difficult to attain. but there has to be, in my opinion, there has to be, even if it's like super slight, there has to be some semblance of I can get there. I may have to sacrifice all this, or I may have to do all this, or my system may have to adapt so immensely that it's going to be like really difficult, but it is achievable, whether it's 5% chance of success or 95% chance of success. Like something I can wrap my head around. When you say like I can't achieve, I interpret that as like it's something I can't even wrap my head around. Like not gonna happen. So that's my answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on the camp of setting goals that maybe I didn't say it correctly. I don't want to say that you know that you can't hit it, but on that lofty side that you can't even imagine you hitting that goal. Because
that's where you are. That's where you are. Yeah.
Because, and this is mostly coming from the 10X rule from Grant Cardone. I really enjoy that book. And he talks about, let's say your goal from previous example was to buy 5 single family houses.
Yep.
He just says, hey, make that 50.
Mm-hmm.
The 10X, right? Multiply by 10.
Yeah.
And if you got to think about with the goal setting piece, if you do it correctly, like I guess in the traditional sense, you set that goal and then you're like, hey, walk backwards. Like, how can I get there by this time? I need to do this and you do that. If you know that, or if your goal is to get to 50 houses, you need to put in so much more effort and you need to be so much more creative. You need to know so many more people in your network to achieve that goal rather than 5 houses.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, and we talk about in this episode, it's not the goal that's important, it's the process that you have that's more important. So with setting a lofty goal, you have to force yourself to create processes and systems like that.
Yes.
And even if you don't achieve your goal, let's say you get to house 27.
Right.
You're like, it's just not where my heart needs to be, whatever, right? But you're so much better off than if you just were setting down 5 single family.
Right.
And along the way, you created better systems, more people. And so that's my take on it. That's, I would say, rebellious because most of in the world today, have you heard the SMART goals, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone's like,
specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, I think. Yeah.
Yep. And then 10X rule concept doesn't really apply to that SMART goal. But SMART goal, you're almost setting that goal as something that you know that you can kind of hit. Because you're being so certain of that goal. Like, hey, I want to get it by this time and this date.
Yeah.
I know, because one of the things, A, is achievable. You know that you need to be achievable. That means like, you know that you got to hit it. So if you know that you hit it, it's not going to be like crazy lofty.
Yeah, I kind of see. Yeah.
So, and I don't like that SMART goal idea because I think it's capping so many people of their potential. Whereas if they set loftier goals, and this depends on the person because people can't set loftier goals and just not achieve, like not even try to achieve it. They just talk the talk, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not them excluded, the people that actually try to chase dreams and chase their goals.
Dream chases.
Yeah, I think the SMART goal system is, I don't like that at all. Okay. I have to do it for work. And it just,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have to think about what I can achieve, which is like, okay, I'm pretty confident I can get this goal. So at the end of the year in my review, I'm like, hey, look, I hit my goal. Like, I'm a superstar. Give me more money, right?
That's interesting. In the context of a job, you know how they say under promise, over deliver? It's like, do you set goals where you can present to someone and be like, hey, this is my goal, just so you can meet it and like look good? Oh, that's a whole different twist. I think part of because when I first heard, I remember distinctly when I first heard the SMART goal system, it was in the year I was in prep school, and I was like, oh, that's like really good. So to go counter to what you're saying, I think SMART goal in a sense can be useful because it forces you to focus on the system in a way. Like the A is achievable and the R is realistic. But like from I mean, even a timely piece or, yeah, actually specific. I like that it almost steps you away from the end result and it's like, okay, what do I need to do in the interim? But even still, putting those hard limitations, like making it super specific and making it, like attainable or achievable can kind of stifle you. So I actually kind of like what you were saying there. And, as me being a creative, I like in my processes having some room. And this goes back to what you were saying about being hyperfixated on your example of having 5 houses. And if something else is offered to you and you're like, nope, I gotta, every dollar I'm accounting for is going to this process to get these 5 houses. I can see maybe a SMART goal kind of stifling that adaptability piece, or, something else good comes your way or something is introduced in your life and you have blinders on because you're so fixated on either that goal or this SMART system, to really get you to that goal. I think if we can develop a system, that's a little more detailed, but that can allow for some breathing room, that would be optimal. So you can adjust your plan. And I guess, somebody could argue, well, you can adjust your goal, but again, I think that kind of defeats the point of the goal. When I think of goal, you think of like one solid idea. If you're always changing it, like, is it a goal? I feel like a plan is a little more fluid, where you can add to it, subtract to it, make it more detailed. Whereas a goal is like, this is the goal. Which is why you shouldn't set a goal.
Yeah, if you just change it in constantly, like, it's not. Yeah, it's not grand enough, I feel like.
Yeah.
And
on the topic of it being grand or like a lofty goal, do you think or have you ever experienced like where you're just running yourself into the ground and you're like burning yourself out because you have one solid idea that is a goal and you're like just kind of pouring everything into that? You may not say, but or have you? I'm curious to know.
I don't know. Maybe I did, but it wasn't because of a goal though. Maybe it was because I don't have a goal that, hey, I want to make X amount of money. I want to, this year. I don't have that goal.
Mm-hmm.
But 2024, this year was the first time I think I ever felt burnt out ever in my life.
Wow.
Like everything, like high school, like all the school was very easy. I studied hard, but I wasn't burnt out because I wasn't doing constantly every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why I didn't do that well in college. But like, and then I joined the Navy.
Yep.
And then like you can get your qualifications, like the stuff that you have to do to achieve to the next step. Like it's kind of on your like own pace. And then you have friendly competition within the ship, with your buddies. Like I never felt that burnt out.
Okay.
To the point that was just like, that was the only thing I was doing.
Yeah.
And this year was seriously like, I had my job, I had my real estate investing stuff, and I had a couple side hustles I was doing. And it was just constantly work. And one time I was like, oh my God, this is just so much.
Yeah.
I have to do so much stuff. And it was all because I guess, even though I never set that goal, like it was all the purpose. It was to make more money.
Yeah.
To support my ultimate goal of putting into some sort of investments. And
Dude.
But I could see people falling into that trap, right? Because you see so many people, like, for example, I mean, you hear all the time with chasing the goal of becoming a professional athlete. Like, there are so many stories that get swept under the rug because they don't make it to the big leagues. But there's so many people that try. I'm sure they're burnt out. They're hurt all the time. They're trying to grind because they don't want that spot taken by the person behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have like a career-ending injury, and that's it, right? That's it. You're done.
Right. And my thing is, what's your backup? So stemming off of what you just said, they have a career injury, or using that same example, a lot of people will detract from their like education and just focus on the sport. But like, let's say you don't make it to whatever that next level is. Because you were so hyper fixated or you were burning yourself out on that goal, you either didn't have the time or you didn't have the you were too fatigued to, focus on your education maybe, and now you can't go to where you want to go as your backup plan because you don't have the educational background, or something to that effect. So it's just like that hyperfixation that leads to that, I don't know, maybe, that burnout. I think it could.
With so I have a personal story about these goal stuff, because I used to be a New Year's resolution guy a while back, when I was elementary school, middle school,
I don't think I ever
high school.
Yeah.
But I was the very common type that everyone's heard of oh, I want to lose weight this year.
Mm-hmm.
I want to eat healthier this year.
Mm-hmm.
Those are such a general statement.
Oh yeah.
It has nothing to do with any goals, right?
I think I know
what does that mean?
Hmm.
And then I think it was so I stopped doing New Year's resolutions for a while. I was like, dude, these are so pointless. The same thing as what we're trying to say is some of these goals are just so pointless. And that I read a book about goal setting, and they talked about, kind of the SMART goal system, but they didn't really present it like that. But you got to have a goal that you can check off literally, right? I'm like, hey, did you do this or did you not do this?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started setting goals like that. And then the first year I started doing it, I think I set my goals too easy, but then I was able to hit it. Otherwise, maybe I wasn't going to. You just never, it's more of a goalpost that you aim for. It's like a direction kind of thing, right? But then with that, I'm starting to realize I did that probably for 5 years, and I'm starting to realize there's so many limitations on that side, because it's like what you said. I usually set about 10 goals for the year.
Mm-hmm.
I probably hit 8 or 9 of them. And I feel easy. I feel I can relax. I'm like, okay.
Of course, it feels good to hit.
Yeah. Oh, it's we're recording this in September. Oh, it's already September. We got 3 months in the year left. Maybe I'll just wait till the next day. That's not a good thinking to have, but then I think that.
Right.
And so that's why I'm trying to think about next year's goal setting, but I'm gonna be looking at it not more like a SMART goal that you can achieve, but more of a direction that I want to go. And
like that.
It's gonna be more. It sounds kind of contradicting, but it's gonna sound more like the first goal, oh, I want to eat healthier. That's more of a thought and statement.
Yeah.
But I want to have a direction.
Okay.
So I don't know how that is exactly how that's gonna work.
Yeah. No, I hear you, dude. It's because people say that's the whole point of SMART goals, because people say those vague, nebulous concepts. I want to eat healthier. How are you gonna do that? When are you gonna do that? What? And I do think there needs to be some specificity to it, which is the first part of SMART goals. But in the sense that it's something that you make habitual, and maybe you can check in on more frequently, because a goal is, again, it's something that exists in the distant future. So it's hard to quantify where you're at on the progression of that goal. To your point, which is why I don't have a goal. Hey, I want to eat healthier. And then every day you can do an act that supplements this direction that you're taking towards eating healthier. You get rid of all soda from your fridge. You incorporate a salad every day. Which I also read this book called Checklist Manifesto, which, on a less personal note, I think it's by somebody Gawande or something. But anyways, it did a study on how the implementation of checklists boosted increased proficiencies in these certain careers, like doctors that especially in the technical fields, you need checklists because it's an accountability piece, and it confirms you did these things. So in very technical fields, I think checklists probably exist, but they talked about the use of checklists in other fields where it might not naturally exist, and how they did studies on, the company that uses a checklist versus don't, or this individual that uses a checklist comparing to somebody that does it, and the results. And it was kind of interesting. So, but I think, again, that just reinforces the narrative of the consistent, little thing that supports this direction you're going, vice this arbitrary end state. So no, that's, I like that you brought that up, but it's counterintuitive, right? Which is why we rebel against it, because everybody's like, don't say you just want to eat healthier. Like, what do you want to eat, or when do you want to eat it by? I don't know. I think it's just the more daily or weekly. It's the habits. It's part of your system, which is again part of your system. Which again, I just love that quote. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your system.
Yeah.
If you have something you're doing every day, like you're gonna fall back on that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're like, at a minimum, I'm going to do this. Like you fall to that system. Whereas if you're like in 8 months, I'm gonna have it's just not a solid concept.
And I think I'm sure other people can relate. I don't like keep bringing up the same stories, but I always set up for the last 5 years. I've always said, hey, I want to read this many books for this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking next year is going to be the first year where I don't set that goal. But because the system and processes has been established within me, there's not a single chance that I'm not going to be reading a book.
Yeah.
So with the direction piece, I might just write like, hey, just read something outside of the fields that you're comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, like I read pretty much most of the personal finance, like money books. I'm sure there's a lot, but like the main ones, I at least heard about it or pretty much read it. And I want to be able to step into, I want to be that guy that they can just kind of have a conversation about all these great topics.
Yes.
And not just like at a curiosity standpoint, but like be able to contribute to the conversation because some background information on that topic. And I think that's so cool. I mean, like, oh, like he knows about this. He can talk about this. And not that guy that acts like they know what you're talking about. Everyone knows that guy's like, oh, like he seems like he knows everything. But then when you peel one layer back of information, they're like, oh, you can tell they don't know much.
Man, you just said something that made me... So first off, I got a compliment recently. That's probably one of the best compliments I've received in a long time, if not ever. And somebody told me that I seem like a Renaissance man.
Okay. What is that?
Just like I have either like an interest or that I do or that about a lot. It's pretty much like jack of all trades.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just kind of explaining some things to somebody I'm trying to get to know, like things that I just do in my life and that I'm involved with. And she was like, wow, you were like very much like a Renaissance man. You just got a lot going on, but a lot that you're trying to grow in and pursue. And they were like, oh, that's really cool. And I was like, dang, that really feels good. But to your point, I think I'm kind of driven by, and it can be a downfall sometimes, but I'm driven by like curiosity, and that allows me to explore many things. And to some point, you got to go beyond the surface level. But I circle this back to what you're saying. Like you want to be somebody that's well versed in a lot of topics, and then be able to go in depth in those topics. But if you have rigid goals on these one things, your time is going to be taken up by these one or two, these things that you pour into. But you're able to read and you're able to explore these things with your wife. And, this year you were trying to get savvy behind the camera, which, I love like that. Like, I love like seeing you kind of like in that journey. But I think it's kind of the same. If you let curiosity drive you, you can't really operate in a lot of rigid goals.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of ebbs and flows.
Absolutely.
Which is consistent with our narrative, like, watch these goals.
Like all the great people that achieved a lot of these things, once they found out that, that's their life's mission to do whatever, maybe they had that grand goal and to achieve greatness. But again, I would say that's more of like a direction, right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, like Martin Luther King Jr., all right? We can say he was one of the greatest Americans that lived ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he had a goal that was like, hey, I want this many people to be equally treated by this time. Like, he didn't have a SMART goal. There's no way he had a SMART goal. 0% chance. But he had more of like a direction, or you could say a dream, right?
Yeah.
Of, hey, I want to achieve this thing, whatever that means. and he's gonna keep working towards it.
These are the actions I'm doing to work towards this idea. Yeah.
It's like more of like an ambitious idea.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really like a goal that we talk about in a traditional sense. You depending on how you define it, you could say that's a goal, but that's not. That's not the point that we're trying to make. We're talking about goals in a very traditional sense that, you know, people write it down and they got that crappy goals that don't mean anything, and next level up is the smart goals that, you know, I'm just not a big fan of, to be honest.
No,
because like I'm just thinking about all the counter arguments to what we're talking about. It's like, oh, imagine if like companies didn't have goals. Like, yeah, I mean, like that's like a different organization. Like you have, you know, like hundreds and, you know, thousands of people trying to achieve something. Like, well, of course you need a goal.
Like even that, bro. Even those goals are like for systems of organization. It's just a metric because again, they have to have a way to quantify what all these people are doing up to work again. So even that, I think, is kind of embedded in their system, like that target they have to reach so they can compare to next year to evaluate what they need to shift, what they need to change, take away from the operations department and put in the research and development or, you know, whatever. Like even those goals, I think, are for their larger system.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. No. And Jeff Bezos, he talks about it a lot in his interviews, right? He talks about, you know, I mean, obviously he doesn't run Amazon anymore, but I'm sure he has a big say in it still.
Yeah.
But he always talks about how, you know, Amazon, he's talking about the retail side of the Amazon business. Mm-hmm. And he's like, people will always want the cheapest product. Or that's like it. Maybe I said it wrong, but given two items that's in the same quality, they want something cheaper, right? Obviously, they always want super fast shipping times. They're going to always want great customer service, but those are not company goals. Their goal doesn't say, hey, we should get to having a greater customer service. They already have that. They already achieved that goal, that you could say.
Yeah.
But it's more of having the systems and process in place for that company. Like, hey, at Amazon, this is what we do. We provide great customer service. This is what we do at Amazon. We give super fast delivery times. And that's not even a direction at that point, but if you peel that back so many layers, you can figure out, okay, in order to achieve that, we can do X, Y, Z to make it happen. And that's not goals. So even at the company level, right? Like overall company level, not the each departments may have a, you know, checklist quotas.
Right. But hey, bro, did somebody from Amazon hire you? Guess them. Look.
Oh, dude. I mean, I'm not looking for a new job, but you know, depending on how much they want to offer me.
Right.
Yeah.
Free promotion. No, yeah. Kind of like you were touching on. I think a lot of great maybe inventions, or again, back to this creativity and curiosity, like newer innovations. I don't think a lot of just, you name a random object in society was like, hey, I'm going to set out to, at some point it probably developed into, I want to create this. But I think these scientists or chemists, engineer might be a little more linear, but are just kind of, you wrestle with concepts and then you realize, hey, these two things work together. And, oh, I've seen this, I observed this reaction or I observed this outcome. And now based on me playing with this curiosity, this innovation, I can make X item. And then you start to work in that direction to create this thing. But again, if you have rigid goals in place, I think it stifles your willingness to listen, to let outside things come in play, stifles your curiosity, maybe passion. Whereas if you have a general direction and you allow yourself to like move freely towards that direction, how would you say? There's just a lot of like little nuggets and different perspectives to look at. I mean, yes, we're saying a lot of the same things, but from different vantage points as to why goals may be a hindrance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think people, I'm just like starting to feel like whatever that's like accepted by the general public, like you kind of look into it and it's like, dude, if you're trying to be great, you should not be listening to these things, you know?
Right. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Nah, yeah, man. It's fascinating when you like sit back and look at all these, I won't say traditional advice, but I mean, I guess that's what it comes out to.
Starting like I'm trying to think of something that people can't even argue about it with, because there's there's so many ways everyone can argue about something.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that it's like most people probably wouldn't argue is, we had a episode about, hard work doesn't really guarantee you success. But if you said, hey, do you agree with this quote?
Yeah.
Like, hard work pays off, I feel like everyone would.
Yeah.
But then you kind of look into it as like, that could be a very irresponsible thing to say to someone, especially young and gullible and, that's like optimistic. Right. And same thing with goals, like SMART goals in particular. Like I
we get it. You don't like it. We got it. Hey, let me ask you, do you think we live in I think we touched on this in different, maybe in a different episode, but I don't think it's been said like this. Do you think we live in an attachment culture where not only do people, I think it's beyond arguing, like people definitely these days like are attached to, like phone or material things, but like conceptually, like concepts, do you think we live in an attachment culture where people try to latch on to a idea or a concept that exists? Put all your money in the G fund, like it's safe concept, like, and you just attach to it, and that attachment creates a unwillingness to look at other avenues or other, like what do you think about it's a loose question, but
yeah, I do think so, and I think it gets worse as people age, because I mean, if it has worked for them and you try to explain something to like an older person, they're gonna be like, oh no, like you don't get it, blah blah blah, and it's like you can't win that argument.
You ever hear you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
Yeah, I mean,
that is literally what you just described.
I think it takes, I don't even say like a special person, but like a humble person to be willing to accept a lot of different and new ideas. Because I think those ideas that stuck to them, I think they involve some sort of ego that they know, that they are aware that what they're doing is the best for them, right? Because otherwise they wouldn't be doing them. Yeah, I think they'll be missing out on a lot. And hopefully what they believe in is an overall good thing.
Right.
If someone's concept is like, hey, I only invest in the S&P 500 fund, like I would say that's, even if they're not open to other stuff, like they're going to be very successful. They're going to do very well.
Right.
But on the other side, majority of the people, they're stuck in their own ways in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I don't know what
And it's interesting because, like you said, I see it a lot in the older generations, and I love where I'm at in life right now, because I'm at the age where like I'm living through some stuff, but like my parents are still young enough to have like pretty good conversations, and like I'll challenge a lot of what they say or what they grew up on, and they'll admit, especially like my dad, he's like, that's just how I was raised. I mean, I got it, but if how you were raised was like, it's antiquated, it's no longer the best way, maybe we should take a look at that, dude. You know what I mean? Like, let's revisit that.
Yeah.
So people 100% get stuck in their ways. And you said humble. I think a better way to say it is like open-mindedness.
Mm-hmm.
I think people just need to be open-minded.
And I think I think that comes from ego.
Yeah.
Like the more cocky they are, they can believe in their cause and still be open-minded.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's interesting to me because, again, like I said, I see this in a lot of older generations, but the older you get means you've lived more life. And if you've been on this earth long enough, you know for a fact things change and adapt. Like, that is society. Like, for us in 20 years, a lot of things we do now are going to be not how they're done.
Yeah.
Time now plus 20. So knowing that, you would think you would carry a mindset that lends to, okay, as I navigate life, things are going to change. You already know we're going to have to shift our thinking. Maybe how we pursue money changes, how we save money changes, how we were talking about earlier, like raising kids. How we were raised may look different from how we raise our kids. How, you name it, how sports are put, like things are going to change. So naturally with that, our thoughts and our systems are going to have to change with it. Like, it's just, when we break it down like that, it's almost logical.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I guess that's maybe being seen out. Like when you get older, it's just harder to see. Like, I get it. Like, you did this thing in your life and it worked for you, which is where it really gets scary, because as you try to pass knowledge down, like, it might have worked for you and that was the best of your lifetime, but it might not be the best for the upcoming generation, your kids, maybe.
Yeah.
That's where it really gets, even if you're stuck in your ways, cool, you be stuck, but you leave that over there, there may be a better way for your lineage to do things. That's why I really think it comes into play.
And yeah, that's so good. And there's so many things that I'm just thinking mainly like personal finance.
Mm-hmm.
That's taught at the home traditionally, and
Yes,
still to this day, I would say majority of the people learn personal finance from their family.
mm-hmm.
There's other ways to learn about it. Read books, YouTube. Like, there's a big Reddit communities around them.
Yeah.
And I just don't like how there's gonna be a group of people that something worked for them, and they're gonna just constantly, almost to the point, they're gonna brainwash their child.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you need to do this.
Yeah.
This is how we were like successful.
Yeah.
And maybe success to them means being in the dead middle class with, a combined $100K salary for the family, 2 cars, 2 car payments, a mortgage, student loans. You're doing well if you're under $8,000 in credit card. Oh, I only have 4,000. We're doing well. Like, that middle class mindset that they just keep passing on. That may not be the best for that child, right? Because he must either be like, hey, I want to do this, but then they may get shot down because, like, don't take debt for that. That's too risky.
Yeah.
And I just see it, in a very, not in the best way. Like, they mean well.
Right.
But just not the best, because they just don't know, because they're stuck in their own ways.
Yeah. Which is why I think lifelong learning is important, to never stop learning. And also, on the learning note, like the age of information, young people are going to start learning more younger.
Yeah.
So, like, for our parents, things change slowly over time, but like for us, that learning curve is going to be steeper. Things are going to rapidly change. So even more reason as we age, and our peer group has to be accepting to adapting, because, like, well, who knows where this is going?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
What are you thinking for pros and cons? No, I don't want to say pros and cons. We'll say, what are the cons for setting the traditional goals that people are talking about?
Okay. I think we can go back and forth and name some. I think one con is that it gives you a rigid parameter to operate in, or not even parameter is a bad word. It gives you a very solid end state that's not fluid, and limits your ability to, and limits your curiosity and your, like, adaptability. That's one con, I think. What you got?
Shoot, you kind of covered both of the things that I wanted to say.
Oh, dang, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to be in your head.
No, it's all good. But it's like, I felt it firsthand. And if someone's ambitious enough to set goals and try to achieve them, and once they achieve them, hopefully they're in that mental space to set grander goals. But even if they do, I feel like they're going to have some sort of down period where they're going to be content with where they're at. Mm-hmm. And they're too comfortable in their life, because whatever they achieved, that they just don't go to the next level.
Yeah.
And that's where, I don't want to say that's where I'm at now, but it's very hard for me to take a major big risk that all these people take to ultimately become super successful, because they took that grand risk. Because I'm so comfortable where I'm at.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a weird place because I don't want to go make myself uncomfortable.
Yeah, right.
Like, right? Like, no one wants to do that.
Yeah.
And so I don't have that fire enough to change something. Where
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's why my goals will also reflect that thinking. Feel like
What thinking? Like have a sense of direction, right? What?
no, like that thinking of, I'm okay where
Okay.
I'm at. So I feel like my goals, if I'm actually setting goals, they're gonna be less and less, not as great, I guess. And yeah, I mean, that's just a recent thought that I was just kind of thinking about.
Okay. No, I hear you. And it's hard, right? Because I feel like in the pursuit of whatever one's end state is, or maybe in between goals, like let's say you got three different things you're working on. And sometimes I feel like there's a space that exists where you can be working towards all these things. You haven't achieved them yet, but you're in a comfortable spot. Like you have a system in place and you're executing that system. And it's like, I'm not doing anything risky or new right now. Like you feel uneasy. I feel like sometimes that's okay. As long as you're progressing in a positive direction towards something, like you may feel comfortable, but you're in that comfort, you're still progressing. You're not comfortable and not making any moves anywhere. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So I think life is going to ebb and flow where it's okay to be comfortable in that way sometimes, where you're not going in a negative direction or stagnating. You can be progressing and be comfortable. It's just not such a rapid progression that you're uncomfortable, because that'll come again. And that rapid progression is that risk I'm talking about that you alluded to. Another thing that you made me think of that I think is great for this topic, but we didn't really touch on, is like accountability. If you can find I feel like often someone or something, some system that holds you accountable to this plan or this system that you put in place, that can also help you, I don't want to say stay uncomfortable, but we can help you go in that positive direction or the direction that you said. I like how you said, use that term, direction, can keep you in that direction. Because a lot of times if you're not held accountable, and that's that New Year's resolution jump, like February, it's like, all right, like I've been doing it a little bit, like nobody's really watching, like, okay, I feel kind of good, like, all right, no, if you have a system or a person holding you accountable, I think that helps keep you in that direction that will ultimately get you maybe to your goal. But more importantly, like beyond it, as you were also saying, like, sure, I want to read 12 books this year, but if I'm just reading 30 minutes a day and I hit 12 earlier than December, okay, stay on the plan. Yeah.
I think that's how I'm gonna go about it for 2025 too. Because one of the big challenges my wife and I are facing is we're not going to the gym nearly as enough as we should be going, and we definitely ebb and flow in that sense. We'll go for like a month, and then not go for like 3 weeks, and they're like, oh, like we need to start going again. But then I think I'm gonna kind of think about it like, hey, we are a family that just go to the gym in the morning. I'm not gonna set a weight goal. I am not gonna set any type of I'm just setting. I just want to have that identity shift instead of setting a goal.
Oh, fat brother, identity shift. Ooh,
I think that's probably
like
more
that.
like, yeah.
I like that.
That if you just like, if you set a direction, like, hey, whatever it is, we're just going to the gym with no goals.
Hashtag no goals.
If you just go to the gym, something will happen in a better way. Right? You're not gonna just step in.
Yeah.
That's very unrealistic. As long as you have the system to wake up at a certain time and just put your shoes on, gym clothes on, and go, guarantee great things. Maybe not great, but better things will happen.
And that's it.
If you did it
better, yes. I actually love that example because it's contrary to all the things we hear, like, oh, we've got to be specific. But no, literally, if you go in the gym, you walk in the gym, you survey all the equipment, you're like, I'm gonna hop on the treadmill today. Well, let me do 30 minutes on the treadmill. And then you feel good. And then you may be like, you know what? Like, actually, if I do 30 minutes on the treadmill every day, I think that'll help with this. And then, like, now that's your thing. And then, you do your 30 minutes on the treadmill becomes like very routine. You're like, okay, after I do treadmills, I'm gonna go over here and do an ab circuit before I go, and it kind of builds. But as we said, with almost everything, it's the start. Like starting is the hardest part. And I love what you said about the identity shift. I don't think it happens in a day. Like you said, we're just like tomorrow, we're going to be the family that goes to the gym. I think it starts as habit building. And once it's habitual, now it's like part of your identity. But the underlying theme is still the same, that you got to get up and do it.
Yeah.
So, man.
And we talked about it before. Instead of, like, yeah, you know, like I decided today I'm not setting any SMART goals for 2025.
Yeah.
And I heard about it. I forgot who said it. I heard it in a podcast. They said, I'm going to just change their example to me, but instead of hitting X amount of books read this year, and instead of that, I want to become someone that reads. Like, I want to become just a reader.
It's your identity. Exactly.
And instead of hitting that goal, like, I know that even like on the plane ride, it's just so much easier to just download a show, download a game, and just play it. But I'm a reader, so I'm gonna go pick up a book, and they're just so much better than, because if you hit your 12 books for the year, like, you're not gonna read for the rest of the year unless you're a reader. So
I think that's pretty good. I like how you kind of wrap that up. I think I'm good. You good?
Yeah, I'm not setting no goals in 2024.
No goals, baby. Hashtag no goals. Let's get it. Hey, check in us. What is it? September? It's September 2025. Check in with us. See where we're at. We got no goals. Yeah, I'm excited. It's almost freeing. It's like inspiring, but like also, I feel like free of like any shackles. Like I want to move in a positive direction. I have idea. I like that identity piece. Like, I want to incorporate these things in my identity, like truly. I really do. And the only way to do that is that consistency.
Maybe here's an actual strategy that I might explore, and then hopefully, people can get ideas from it. But how I've been traditionally setting goals is I have my 5F goals, which I have a topic for finance, finance goals, family goals, fitness goals, freedom goals, and faith goals. And instead of incorporating, I used to write down the SMART goals for each of those. Instead, I think I'm going to write down like a identity starting with an I am statement for next year. Like for finance, I'll be like, I am a person that saves. I am a person that saves and invests. And that's just going to be my identity going forward. Like family, I am a person that talks to my family on a consistent basis, regardless of what's going on in life.
Okay.
And I have faith/mindset. It's like, I am a person that believes in faith, and I'm a person that meditates. I want to also get back into meditating, because that helped me a lot in 2021, and I just haven't been consistent since then. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I love it. Hashtag no goals. Let's get it.
Hashtag no goals right here.
You get no, I'll get goals. We'll put them together. Oh, man, that's awesome. Appreciate you, B, as always. Thank you for whoever's out there listening. Hopefully you get some takeaways. Don't stress yourself out on over these goals. Let them go and just tap into what you want to incorporate in your identity, honestly. Appreciate y'all from joining. Till next week.